I'll be able to find it, literally.
Praying for a
Hello,
good episode.
everyone. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Sonic Movie Show, the only show that does the thing, and there are other things as well. My name is Ethan, and as always, I am joined by my esteemed colleague in the Sonic movie universe, Devin. How are you doing on this fine morning?
When we're done, there won't be anything left
Because we're gonna
because
find out all the
we'll figure
scoops.
out. We got all the
Exactly.
scoops. So yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So, Devin, the day is currently February 20th, 2024. We have yet to see a trailer for Sonic Movie 3 yet. So we're gonna predict. No, I'm kidding. Yeah. No, this has been a couple months after the trailer has dropped for Sonic Movie 3, and we're going to now, because time has permitted us this, to sit down and we've watched the trailer again privately before hopping on. Predict the movie. We're gonna try our best to suss out everything. Because get it, Sonic the Hedgehog, he's kind of sus. We're gonna suss out
No, no.
everything in this movie and try to figure out what is going on. Some might say we're spoiling it for ourselves, but you know what? I don't do that for any other type of movie. I'll do it for this one, I guess. It's part of the job. Devin, now I know you. I've known you for a very, very long time, and one of the things I've known about you since I think almost day one is that you're a huge, mungus Rouge the Bat fan.
Among Us,
Yes, there we go. Hey, we did
Among
it
Us
twice.
fan.
No, you're a huge Rouge the Bat fan. I remember the first day we met in fifth grade there,
Right.
you had a Rouge the Bat T-shirt on, and
And
I
a
was
hat.
like, oh, and a hat as well. I was like, oh wow, this guy remembers Sonic Adventure 2. And then you told me you never played that game, and I was like,
I'm just a
oh,
big fan of the bat.
exactly. Why don't you let me know what you think? Because this is my first question here right off the bat. Do you think this character is going to be in this movie as a surprise?
I mean, like what I want is Rouge to like actually appear in the first 10 minutes of the film as a surprise, and then she's in it for the rest of the movie, right? But let's be real. Let's be realistic here. I hate to be realistic because us Rouge fans, we want to eat and we deserve to eat, but they like to starve us. So,
Yeah, the
I
Geneva
think
Conventions have stated, yes, even you deserve to eat.
I don't think Rouge the Bat's going to be in this. Maybe if she is, it's teased at the end, but not like they show her. I could maybe see like, I don't know, Shadow being like, I know somebody, or like,
There
I
are
don't know,
others
some
like
context,
us,
like,
some sort of vague,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Because I don't think, like, honestly, if they're at the end, the only thing I can think of is like a big, like, to get to the same hype as Shadow. Like Shadow was revealed at the end of Sonic Movie 2.
Right.
Spoilers. I could see at most if there's a new character being shown and they want to pick one. I think you're either gonna go with Amy Rose or Silver the Hedgehog. I think those are to me, like the two. I know
Yeah.
Silver is a little bit of a stretch, but based off how these games have gone and like how they're trying to really like get the diehard fans like really like hyped about it, like I think they do genuinely care about that hype. That's why the Shadow was teased the way he
Right.
was.
They're doing the big hits. They didn't do like they went straight to Knuckles, like cool. They didn't like do a tiny little thing with Amy and Metal Sonic. No, straight to Knuckles. And now we're going straight to Shadow, you know. And Silver, I guess, would be that. I know there are going to be plenty of Sonic fans, and I think especially Sonic comic fans being like, well, no, they could do this character or this character, but like, just think
I'm
about
saying
it globally
the main,
and
yeah,
as
the
a like
main,
marketability thing. They gotta pick just like the next big one, and I guess it would be him.
yeah. But like if you're not doing a hedgehog in the traditional sense, I guess to me it's like, I mean, Amy just makes the most sense of like who would make, like, if we're starting to ease some other characters in. But I also could see it being, like you said, Shadow being like, oh, I had no other friends, and they show like the silhouettes or something of, four
Yeah,
characters, and it's Big the Cat, Amy, and then maybe you have Rouge in there. But I think Rouge is a character that you could introduce by herself, just because of she's kind of the lone wolf, the ex kind of spy, right, kind of character.
you see
So I
Rouge or
think,
Amy?
sorry, yeah, Rouge the Bat. She's to me, she's always been shown like by herself, except for in like the cartoons and stuff. But that's already kind of like I don't know. They always to me those shows are almost like post game where it's like all these characters, we don't need to
Sure.
introduce them.
Yeah.
But if for this, they've done a decent job of like they tease Shadow at the end of Sonic Movie 2, but I can guarantee you in this and even this trailer they briefly talked about who Shadow is. Like for new people who might not played any of the games, they might not have played Sonic Adventure 2 or played Shadow the Hedgehog like we have. They're like, I don't know who Shadow is. I know Sonic. Actually, it reminds me. My friend texted me because he works at a retail location. I won't dox him. And he says while he was working, there was he said there was two little kids walking by and they were like discussing Sonic actually, and one of them said like pointed towards like the toy section. It was like, oh, it's Evil Sonic. Like, oh no, he's called Reverse Sonic. So people don't even know anything about Shadow. I feel like as much as we think.
Reverse Sonic, like Reverse Flash. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I guess. Also, that's just off. That means Year of Shadow failed. By the way, if the kids don't know who Shadow is, if they're calling him Reverse Sonic. But no, I just thought it was funny. But no, for real, how many people? We don't know how many people actually don't know who Shadow the Hedgehog is, so like we get like they're gonna they know the diehard fans will know what he looks like instantly, and they did that with the trailer and at the end of the Sonic Movie 2, right? And I'm sure there's a lot of parents and maybe people who are like, I heard these movies are good and I'm going to see it, or like, oh, am I supposed to know who that is at the end? Like there's probably a decent amount of people that was a
Thanos type situation. In my heart, because the end of Avengers, the 2012 movie, they teased a purple man, and everyone immediately looked down at their phones to Google who is the purple man at the end of Avengers. Shadow, I biased, obviously. I would like to say isn't as big of a mystery to the general audience, just because there's been cartoons with him in it, and like kids love Sonic, and he looks like a Sonic guy, and so you know what I mean. But at the same time, absolutely, that definitely happened to people being like, who the hell is that?
Is it his brother? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
right,
if you're a parent, like, I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But no, yeah, I guess I kind of went a little tangent there, but I'm just explaining why I was using that to explain why I think at most you'll get like at the end an Amy Rose, or like I said, it'll be like a silhouette of a couple of our friends. And the real ones will know, but it'll be like, oh, you gotta wait for the next movie, because in the next movie, that's when we'll turn it into Avengers, where we'll have, Amy, Big the Cat, and then then you can introduce Rouge, but maybe not in the way not everyone has to be revealed at the end of the movie. You could save that for the trailer or whatever, right? Or the movie itself.
I would like to actually keep on this thread here, because I know we've talked about this many times before, but now that we've seen the trailer for this movie, and like, while we might not think it is completely as overall encompassing as the Sonic Movie 2 trailer was, we get a good sense of like, if there were to be a surprise character like a Rouge popping in, we feel like we probably would have seen where this might be, or like, are they going to do a thing where they digitally like take her out of it? You know what I mean? Like, are they going to go to that length? I don't really know. But we've asked,
none of the settings we've seen in this imply to me. But
yes, there's just an empty space right here. Why would they shoot it this way?
Or no, I'm just even saying the setting. Like, who would be in that setting? Like, the only things I can think of in this that aren't shown in the trailer could be like, Metal Sonic. I could see that maybe being a surprise villain at the end, and then Shadow and Sonic have to team up against Metal Sonic. Because there is a lot of like secret laboratory, settings in this, or there's the egg pod looking thing that's floating in the sky.
Here's a prediction right now. Because we have Gerald Robotnik, who knows what the fuck, because he's not supposed to be in like the Sonic games. He's not like alive. I mean, if he is, I guess that's went over my head. Here's your Sonic 4 teaser right now. Gerald made me say Gerald does pass away. Good, bad, whatever. And he leaves his unfinished work for our Robotnik, and it is a prototype of what he could make into Metal Sonic, and then, okay, there we go. Sure, I get it. But this is the question I wanted to ask. Mm-hmm. This is for the series. Do you think they are going to be like, okay, end goal, we get all of these homies in these movies. We're going to get the crocodile and Charmy the bee, and we're going to get Cream the rabbit, and there's going to be real chows now as well. And there's going to, you know what I mean? Are we going to get all of these, or do you think they're going to hand select just the ones that are the most popular, which is arbitrary as fuck for Sonic? I feel like once you get past like the 4 that are in this movie, and Amy, and Rouge, but really not Rouge, and Amy, you include Amy with these 4, they're all kind of in the soup of like, I could see any one of these being the surprise most popular if you were to do a fan poll, right? So do you think that, not this movie, although we'd be surprised if it was, but the next movie, or just in the future, that they're going to be like, yes, here are 3 more guys. You know what I mean? Here's just a bunch. We're going to shotgun these guys.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I feel like they're trying to up the ante every movie. And I feel like I don't like, to me, it seems like the scale in terms of like, you know, like they're in different cities in the world. Like that's already a broader scale than Sonic 2 was. And I know we've been on the record of saying on Sonic 2 we wanted it to expand a little bit more. We still felt like it was a little bit too Green Hills centered, and we also understood that, you know, scope and budget I think played a role in that decision, but clearly they have London now, they have Tokyo, Japan in there, and looks like they might also go to space in that floating pod that comes out of the London river there. So like with all that said, like I don't know how much they do want to like. You know, I think they've been slowly upping the ante over these movies. Like, I don't know how big of a jump they want to make right away, because, you know, I think you do run the risk of like, okay, there's too much shit going on. There's too many characters to have on screen. They don't get enough screen time. It makes it much more difficult, right? So much more of a harder thing. Not saying they can't accomplish that. I think there is, you know, Avengers was an example. I'm talking about like Endgame,
sure,
or Infinity War, right? Where like there was a certain level of like they knew what characters were important for the story they're trying to tell. I don't think we'll ever get to that point. I actually don't know if I'd want that. I think what makes these movies well received is that it still has a little bit of the Hollywoodness to it, as opposed to, hey, we're doing a live action version of your cartoons.
Okay, yeah.
I don't think that's going to resonate as much with us older fans and also parents and whatnot. Like, I think parents like do find these movies fun because they are fun, and like we're adults, like
we've been told.
So we've been told we're supposed to be doing things. I don't know. But no, like we find it fun for, you know, the comedy aspect of it, or I actually am slightly interested in what, you know, the human characters are doing. We relate more to that than maybe the Sonic character does for kids, right?
Sure.
So, I don't know. I'm saying all this just because, like, I think it really depends on how much they want to, like, make that jump, and also what direction are they trying to go with. Are they trying to... If once you add more and more characters, and less human characters especially, I think you run the risk of it just becoming a live-action version of all the cartoon series, and I don't know if I'd want that personally, selfishly. I don't know how many like the average moviegoer is gonna want that as well. You know what I mean? Like, yes, some of these characters are, you know, people know who Sonic is, and like people now probably know who Tails and Knuckles is, right? And they want to know these characters, but people still want to see Robotnik. People, I think, do want to see James Marsden's character a little bit, and they want some sort of reality that's, you know, closer to our actual reality, I think. I don't know. Maybe I'm really speaking on my ass here, but like,
no,
I just feel like I think you run the risk of, that's some of my issue with the new Marvel stuff, where there's so many new characters and they're trying to fit in so much that it feels like I need to watch other things, or I need to know my homework to understand all this. And I don't think that's a good strategy. But at the same time, now that I think about it, Jeff Fowler, the director, has, you know, mentioned in some of the director's commentaries and in interviews that we've watched and discussed, where he said that like, oh, this is the Avengers shot, we're trying to do that. So I can also then bringing all the characters, and all of a sudden we have, you know, James Marsden's you know, character, Tom Wachowski, like maybe he's in it for 5 minutes. He could be I don't think he is actually in this, despite what the trailer shows. I think they really wanted to show Eggman is back
Yeah.
and Shadow. I think he actually isn't going to be in this movie quite a bit more than we think. I could just see the Green Hills setting not being as used, which I'm more hyped for.
Same. I mean,
Uh,
it's gonna be in the beginning because we gotta establish that they're living together and they're a family. And
yeah,
I don't remember what fucking happened in the Knuckles show in relation to that, but like, uh,
they went to Vegas. That's all I remember.
right.
But no, you said you agree with me, but is there any like maybe specific points
Yeah,
you
I
wanted to
mean,
make?
it's mainly like the Marvel stuff. It's like, God, I'm just so burnt and I just don't care. And it's like the idea of having that large ensemble was cool to me until it got lamed. You know what I mean? So like, if that never happened and they did this, I would have thought this was really cool until this lamed me out, right? Like there are people that are like, oh, after the Mario movie, and then now they're doing a Zelda movie. I hope Nintendo does all these, and then they make a Super Smash Brothers movie. I'm like, no, just make your one and done movie. Stop trying to make a super plan where you need to choreograph and orchestrate all these characters and whatnot, because you run the risk of disappointment and like losing the story. So like when you mentioned that Jeff Fowler's talking about like, oh, these Avengers shots here, this moment here, doing that stuff. I think that's fine as long as like at the end of the day the singular movies that they're making are focused on a character or two. Obviously, always got to be Sonic, sure, but like, if the next movie has Silver the Hedgehog or Blaze the Cat or Amy, I think I would prefer over those other two, or Rouge. Make that one new character in it a lot. And then you can have a moment where like they're all together for a fight, but then like then you kind of, you part the smoke a little bit and you have it, no, it's still about this, because then otherwise you get like Avengers Age of Ultron, where there's like 7 million characters in that, and this is Josh Whedon's up his own ass in the most Josh Whedon pay way possible. So it's like everyone's a Tony Stark quipping person, and everyone's being like, I got a bow and arrow, I don't know what the fuck is going on, and Thor's like, I got a hammer, I don't know what the fuck is going on, like, and it's all just nonsense. And you're like, what was that movie about? What was the core of that movie? I have no idea. And so Sonic is building
Artificial intelligence, could be dangerous.
Oh, sure.
But
Gotta put a shield around the world.
but yeah, then United Nations and I don't know.
We have our own United Nations in the Sonic universe. It's Gun. I might as well segue into them as well. It looks like they're going to be a big part in this movie. Yes, they jokingly established that they're called Gun in Sonic 2. Global...
United.
It's not United Nations.
Something to that effect, though,
but
right?
yes,
It's like,
yes.
yeah.
Guardians of the United Nations or something. I don't know. But they're going to be in it a lot more, and we get that scene where it looks like the Olive Garden guy, which is his character's name is Walters, looks like he's briefing rather, Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles at the Chow Cafe in Tokyo before a missile hits it. So cool. That's going to set up like because of course, how would Sonic know about like this and that? And okay, this is how we're going to explain that stuff away.
Well, they literally says, at one point in the trailer, like specifically says, we're basically sending out Team Sonic, and this is Project Shadow.
Right.
So that to me tells me like, yeah, we have an Avengers situation where it's, Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles are a squad, and this is how they spend their time, is saving the world. I think I think that's the route they're going with that. And then we can talk about a little bit about the words Project Shadow and what that kind of
it's
implies.
an anagram. If you take Project Shadow and you arrange all the letters, it says you just got beamed.
It's true.
So, but about the gun stuff specifically, so there's a character who's been announced, and I guess she was in a quick part in the trailer that I keep missing or something like that. But Kristen Ritter's character, Captain Rockwell, she is a gun agent. She's up there in gun, but she is below Walter. She reports to him, it sounds like. Guardian Units of Nations. That's what GUN stands for.
Oh my God.
Guardian Units of Nations. Sure. I don't know. Can you say the United Nations? I feel like you can.
Yeah,
I feel like you
they don't
can.
have a copyright. There's no way they
Right?
have
It's
a
not like
copy.
that's like frowned upon. Whatever. I mean, sure. I'm sure they're pulling it from the games, and I'm sure that's what that. I never knew what gun stood for. I thought it was funny that a giant truck that said "gun" on it was trying to run Sonic over at the end of his first level in Sonic Adventure 2. But yeah, she's in it, and the reason why I asked the Rouge question and then now I'm asking this gun question is before this character was shown or anything like that, and it was just like the casting. People are like, "Oh, she would be a perfect voice for Rouge the Bat." Obviously, not going to happen unless. And now I want to do this fun thing where we each get one stupid Hail Mary, never going to happen. But what if? I'm going to throw mine out there now. She gets experimented on. She becomes Rouge the Bat. So there
Oh
we go.
my god, that'd
That's
be
my
so
not
weird,
gonna happen.
dude.
But like, if it does happen, you owe me money on the line, there, folks at home. You owe me money if this does happen.
That'd be, I wouldn't be opposed to it because it sounds way like it almost doesn't fit with this universe. Is in a world where a universe where there's talking, weird blue alien that call themselves hedgehogs, but really when you think about it, don't look like hedgehogs.
Right.
In a world of that still seems way too far fetched. You know what I mean? But like,
The
but at the
body
same
horror
time,
of, like watching your hands like shrivel up and like things pierce out your back that become wings and your
Yeah,
head
yeah.
morphs and you hear the cracking of your skull as it's.
I would love that though. That'd be a cool. That'd be horror fans out there would love that. But like I mean I guess you could. I guess how you could do it right is like Project Shadow is kind of hinted at as being some sort of experiment. You could do an experiment where yeah, she stumbles into like the movie The Fly, where like a fly flew in the teleportation device, and now a bat flew in, and now she's half bat, half person.
Rouge the Bat.
I like that. I hope that happens because that'd be
For
really sick.
Rockwell, R for Rouge. That's what I'm just saying.
Rouge.
Obviously, that is just such a stretch that I feel like an idiot for even saying it out loud. But if it happens, I deserve credit. So you get one of these stupid Hail Mary ones too. You can throw out at any point.
Man,
you
I
only
don't
get
know.
one.
I only
It's a
get
weird
one.
limitation.
Hail Mary for this movie.
You can hold it.
Here
throw
you
it
go.
out there now if you don't.
They
need to.
actually do kill off Robotnik.
Oh. And
Now, I'm not talking about.
And he leaves behind the Metal Sonic or something that then becomes a problem later.
I think maybe Jim Carrey's like, yeah, actually, I did want to retire for real.
$12 million is $12 million though.
But I'm really like, I'm kind of, this is it, man. Like, you need to find a way to like set, sunset my character. So we got to show him actually dying on screen. I don't know, takes a bullet,
sacrifice himself. Yeah, he gets actually shot. That would be funny.
Maybe him and his grandpa there fight to the death, and they both just wound each other so badly that they both just bleed out and die. And then I don't know, maybe there's a message there about
about what?
I don't know. There's something
The
deep
AIDS
there.
crisis.
No. Just like I don't know. You can make a stretch and be like, it runs in the family. Like you can't.
Okay.
Blood's thicker than water
Sure.
or some stupid shit like that.
Okay.
Yeah, they both die.
Okay.
But at least the main Robotnik dies. Yeah, and
I think
we
it's
can
definitely
have.
possible that Gerald Robotnik, Grandpa Robotnik,
Oh, I think
won't
that's definitely
survive.
more.
But I think it'll be just like, oh, my time has come, and he just passes away or whatever. I don't know. We'll see.
And maybe as well. Oh man, well here the body of Robotnik dies, but then his consciousness goes into some sort of computer, and then they can just do voice acting from
Which would
here
be a
on
hell
out.
of a lot easier. Oh my
Yeah.
God, cool. He's in Metal Sonic.
Or I hate
There
to
you
say
go.
this too. I hate to say this too, because we don't, we're kind of anti AI here in terms of using it in art. They AI his voice,
No.
and he signs his right. At least if he signed his rights away, it'd be a little bit different. But I could see Jim doing that. He's like, yeah, I don't want to do this anymore, but I'll sign my rights for just the Sonic franchise that you can use my AI voice through the rest of time.
But every time you do, I get $50 million. Hey, wait.
Right.
I feel like that's you sign that contract, but it is for every time you use it, I get an extremely high amount of money. So then it's like, okay, well, they'll never use it then. But
But
there's
I
a
don't
chance
know.
they get a
That's my Hail
replacement.
Mary. Yeah, Robotnik dies, and then maybe on top of that, they get his consciousness into a computer chip, or like they find out he did that before he died, and yeah, now he's in it like an ethereal thing at that point rather than a
And then our old video
physical.
game pitch of Resident Evil Grand Prix, which is actually a Sonic
Oh, I didn't
game
even think.
where he's in a
Forgot.
computer. Remember? That's how that
Yeah,
was.
yeah, but it's like
Yeah.
hundreds of years in the future or something crazy like that, where he doesn't.
Actually, did we pitch
I
that
don't.
before Sonic Frontiers comes out, where he is trapped in the freaking computer in the cyberspace
Yeah,
thing?
I mean we did that like
Oh
in
my god.
2021, like early 2021, if I'm not
Video game
mistaken.
companies pay us. We clearly got your number.
Uh,
Um, so there's a lot of little things that we can definitely also predict this or that, or scene placement and whatnot. But I do want to ask a big thing, um, and I want to answer it first. Sorry, but I want to ask this big thing. The topic here of what is Shadow the Hedgehog trying to achieve? What is he doing? Why? I mean, we can tell why he's upset and blah blah blah. But like, what is he doing? And
well,
so he,
to me, it's like I think part of that is I want to know for sure. Did he break out or did someone break him out? I think that also, to a certain extent, can determine that.
sure, yeah. I mean, it could be as simple as like in the Knuckles show, there was a couple people that were like they had worked with Robotnik, and I guess were they a part of Gun? Kid Cudi and then the woman there.
Uh,
What were
I
they
think they were
a
Gun.
part? So okay, there are people that aren't on the
They,
same page.
they worked for the
there.
government of some capacity. That's all I remember. So
Maybe we have gun people who are like Walters, who's like, okay, I trust Sonic, and there are people who are like, you can't trust them. We need our own. Fuck it, we're gonna try Project Shadow, and then maybe that's. But then he says, fuck you guys, and then like, oh, we were wrong. Here is my thing. Obviously, we can tell in the trailer they're doing the thing where yes, he was with Gerald and Maria Robotnik, 50 or whatever years ago, and in the they don't say space colony arc. That's another thing I'm curious to see if they're actually going to do that or if it's just a base somewhere on Earth. But regardless, yes, they're doing all that stuff. Yes, she's getting shot. Yes, he's going to be real sad about it, and that's where his anger comes from. That's his origin, and he's locked up away, and to swallow the key and all that stuff. And now he's finally free, right? Because actually, by the way, in Sonic Adventure 2, it is Robotnik that does break him out because he thinks he can use him. So maybe they do something similar. Maybe someone thinks they can use him.
well, it could be old Robotnik there.
It could be. It could be. So here is
So
my prediction on what Shadow is doing and why. I think he clearly wants the Chaos Emeralds. Because I think, we had the whole Master Emerald thing, and then in Sonic 2, which I think was a much more simple way to introduce people who do not understand this universe to the concept. Be like, no, there is just one. Because that's also what Knuckles was about, and blah, blah, blah. If you're bringing him in there, it'd be weird not to talk about the Master Emerald, and then, so I get it. Okay, so in our version here, the Chaos Emeralds are like, they all form the Master Emerald in our movie universe, but we want to have the Chaos Emeralds now be a thing, like a thing, because they're all individually powerful and whatnot. So I think Shadow's trying to collect them all, and here is my assumption. So at the end of the trailer, towards the end, what I think is happening is the climactic fight, or leading to it, of Sonic versus Shadow, where they're fighting, and Sonic says, "What did you do?" Shadow says, "What I had to." And then Shadow at one point says, "Your line at the beginning of this episode, when I'm done, there'll be nothing left." One of two things could happen, although I think one of them makes more sense, and I think is what my prediction is. He wants Maria back, and there's either doing something to bring her back, or having himself or the world be revert back in time to before it happened. I think he is going to try to say, fuck your timeline. I'm sending myself back, or whatever is going to happen. It's going to destroy, like every sci-fi movie that has time travel, like they all do it
breaks the
differently.
reality of some
Right, like
extent.
he
or
basically could be destroying this universe just to go back in time to then, prevent her from dying. That is my prediction. I think, and obviously there's tiny little bits of it, but I think the main core thing is Shadow wants to go back in time to before she got killed and stop it from happening. and like the crux is going to be you have to move on. One of those things, like, you have to let people go, blah blah blah, even if it was before, even if it's not fair for them. So whatever. How old is she? 9. You know what I mean? That's
Yeah,
not fair, but like whatever. You died. Sorry. Moving on. That's my ultimate prediction. What do you think Shadow the Hedgehog is trying to accomplish in this movie?
Well, I mean, he's like clearly like destroying stuff. I don't know if I mean, in a little bit in some of the early Shadow or instances where he's in the game, he's kind of like anti like the human race as well. To me, I think there'll be that element to it. I think and what I think someone breaks him out, but I think they're not going to show it. But I do think it's probably going to be old Robotnik, or maybe there's a plot twist where it was Gun themselves because they actually want to get rid of Sonic and Knuckles and Tails, or at least that was the intent. Like you kind of mentioned that, like, oh, we can control him. I can see it being like, oh, we can't trust Sonic, Knuckles, and Tails because reasons. They'll make up those reasons. I don't really care for the sake of the plot, whatever.
It's the Batman v Superman argument that they have about Superman. Like, he's unstoppable. How could we ever trust him? He could just turn against us. They could do that. They could just say that.
So I think maybe the idea was, because they keep saying Project Shadow, which implies to me that they had some sort of involvement in creating him. I do want to know more of, like, with that too, like they're like, oh, we've never seen Sonic the Hedgehog before, and maybe they'll retcon that, like, oh, actually we have seen someone like him before because we were able to make someone like Shadow. Because I think at the end of the second one, they said something to the line of like, oh, it's been there for a while, like Shadow's been around for quite some time. I didn't think about the time travel thing. I don't know if we would do that necessarily, but I could see that being the reason why he's getting revenge, that like, oh, people are, evil or whatever, like they kill each other, they hurt each other, we need to, and then he's just not thinking in a rational sense, he's kind of just reacting to it. And yeah, I think he's just going to go around destroying things. I think the emeralds have to be involved in some way, because I feel like they showed it too much at the end of the second movie to just kind of like forget about them.
Right.
So
yeah.
But the fact that they haven't shown him this trailer is interesting. So maybe he gets it really quick. Maybe he able to get the emeralds really quick, and that's that first fight we get. Maybe they're in Japan, hidden somewhere, and he gets them there. I do want to talk about maybe like we have at least what they show in the trailer, the main kind of settings, and we can get into that and like in terms of when they happen and kind of predict the first act, second act, final act, maybe based off those settings. But yeah, I like your theory. I think that'd be pretty cool to do. But I think maybe mine's a little bit more bare bones, just because I think they could take in a couple different directions. It's hard for me to kind of like pick one. But I just like the idea that, yeah, he's mad that he lost basically his only friend. He's been in solitude. He's been, for maybe decades stuck in a tube, and either he gets
Are they going to say he was conscious or unconscious during that? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Is this a Mewtwo situation?
It could be.
That movie.
Yeah. I can see that. But I think he breaks out, whether that's someone breaking him out, and he starts just wreaking havoc, and then Team Sonic's been like kind of an established Avengers like force, and that's how Team Sonic gets involved, and then maybe Sonic realizes him and Shadow are connected in some way. I don't know what that is. They could really do something with that. I guess part of me is like, yeah, I could still see them trying to fit in Metal Sonic, and they team up at the end, just like Batman versus Superman. I kind of don't want them to do that, just because I feel like
Godzilla versus Kong.
Yeah, I don't want them to. I get it's an easy recipe, but I kind of want to see just a Shadow versus Sonic, and maybe this movie ends without them resolving anything. That'd be kind of interesting, where they battle and Shadow wins, kind of like you do with Avengers Infinity War, where Thanos comes and wrecks shit, and it kind of leaves you on this, what's going to happen next? I could see them doing that if they're trying to do the Avengers thing again, where make Shadow the ultimate life form. He's the ultimate villain for now, and we're going to spread this out into 2 movies instead of.
I mean, that would be the most hype thing. Just be like, oh yeah, no, there's 2 movies based off your favorite dynamic in the Sonic games.
I
For
mean,
me personally, selfishly, I'd be like, hell yes.
that also helps back to our original thing we talked about earlier, right? Where it's like, how much do we want to have the other characters? Like how, like finding that balance. We don't have to make that decision right away because we can just
Milk
have
this
Shadow
for a little bit
destroy.
longer.
Maybe
Yeah.
Shadow, like you said, messes up the timelines, and then the Earth is like just fucked, and they need to fix it. And that's where you bring in the other characters. Like, I don't know why we're here, but in this timeline,
sure.
Rouge the Bat, Blaze the Cat,
Yeah,
wasn't that whole
I mean-
Blaze the Cat's thing where he's from the future and stuff? So,
If I remember correctly, because folks, there's going to be Sonic fans that definitely know, Blaze the Cat was first introduced in Sonic Rush, the Nintendo DS game, and I never played that game. I'd like to on this channel. We have the ability to play all of those handheld ones and old ones on the channel. If I remember correctly, she's from an alternate universe, and she's like their Sonic. Instead of Chaos Emerald, it's something else that she gets, and she goes Super Blaze or whatever. But then, what was it? Either the end of that game, she then gets put in Sonic's world, or what I actually think, remembering what happens is she actually was from the future with Silver, and when she dies, or whatever, the wish, was there a wish? I don't fucking remember. That puts her in the other universe or something. It's nonsense that they can select a theme from and say, we will run with this theme, but like we can shove aside the specifics and just say, okay, she's from another universe, another timeline, the future, the past, wherever.
yeah, and
You
that
can
could
have
maybe
her in, I
that's the
guess.
ending of this movie is that the timeline's
I'd prefer
been
her over
messed
Silver.
up.
I think she's cooler than Silver. Silver's kind
Yeah,
of
but
whiny,
maybe you
sorry.
do that at the end of this movie, right? Maybe that's the cliffhanger is like Sonic wakes up with Knuckles and Tails. They lost, and they're in a weird Earth where everything's destroyed, and and then Blaze the Cat's like, "Oh, you're finally here," and then he'd be like, whatever line you want to use to like add some like, "Oh, she knows" or something, like.
Yes, yeah.
So I don't know. They really potentially could take this in a crazy direction if they really wanted to. I don't know. Like I think that's where I like about Shadow here, where they could do the safe route where Sonic wins and Shadow becomes his friend at the end of this movie, and then we move on to the next character. When I think the more we talk about this, the more I think I do want, like, give me a ending that isn't resolved and get me more interested in the next movie of resolving that or setting up different stakes and different worlds potentially, where then you can take that jump a little bit easier, maybe perhaps in the next movie instead of trying to maybe cram it into this, where it's like, okay, we're jumping around too much, but.
Yeah,
maybe we're really like talking way too over the top for this. What this is probably going to be. I don't want to hype ourselves up too much. And then none of this shit happens.
Right. Well, I mean, that's what happened with Sonic 2. We were just like hoping and praying it was more complicated than what the trailer was showing, and no, it wasn't more complicated than what the trailer was showing. It was what the trailer was showing. Yeah, which was sad, but it was a fun movie altogether.
We still give it S tier, so it's okay.
we did. Maybe S.E. I don't know, but I will stay just to walk the time travel stuff a little bit back, because yes, what you're saying now. So I have a couple points for this whole thing. First off, my pitch of Shadow wanting to go back in time to stop the thing, I do not think he will actually get to do it. I think that's what he's going to do, and I think maybe we're going to get the interstellar thing where like it's like he's like reaching out and
he's in the bookcase.
Yeah, exactly. There's just like a field, like there's just a force, and he just can't get there, but he can see her, and then that's when he gets all sad, and Sonic has to talk him off the ledge, so to speak. His give is on. We got to move on. I lost people too. You know what I mean? With Longclaw, though. I was like 6, and you seemingly were the same age as you are now, and that's strange. Or should I call you Grandpa? So there's that.
Right.
I don't think this movie will have we're hopping around in time, nor do I think I want that. And that's mainly just with time travel stuff and multiverses, Marvel ruined the intrigue in it. To me personally, and I think for a lot of people, and that's pulling that out of my ass when I say from a lot of people. It's a generalization on my own interests. I get it. But And I think even Marvel's trying to walk that shit back themselves by saying like, "Yep, maybe it was a good thing." What's his name? Something Majors. We had to fire him because now we have an excuse just not to do that shit anymore, and we'll just pay Doctor Doolittle a bunch of money to come back and put on a different mask, whatever. Yeah, remember after Avengers Endgame, Robert Downey Jr. did that Doctor Doolittle movie that bombed. It's like, oh, maybe you're not that great of an actor after all, and maybe.
I don't think that was the reason that movie bombed. I think people are just like, do we want another Dr. Dolittle movie?
The Eddie Murphy one was really good. It was a funny movie. Anyway,
I don't know. I've never heard anyone who's like, I'm a Dr. Dolittle fan. You know what I mean? Like versus like, I'm a Ghostbusters. Like everyone's like, why is there a Ghostbuster movie? Because there's so many people who are like, I'm a Ghostbusters fan.
No,
I've never heard someone be like,
can't let that shit go. No, the things we enjoyed must still be the things that are enjoyed. That's a stupid rant I have. But anyway, it is a stupid rant. But not to go on too much of a tangent here. I do think Marvel kind of made it so that hopefully, in my opinion, some of these other studios or just creatives in general are like tiptoeing around the idea of multiverses and stuff, because it's very easy to like have your audience be confused and uninterested at the stakes. Now, this all being said, what you said about the end of this movie being like a surprise two-parter, and our Team Sonic is now thrown in another universe that might have some of these other characters.
Or timeline, whatever how you want to describe it.
It allows for two things. It allows for your wacky, hey, this character you thought was never going to be in these movies because there are, even on this, murky, who knows what the popularity ranking is for these characters, even then they'd be really low. There's a chance for them to be in there as well. A chance to like have all these characters in it, but not having it count because it's another universe that we never go back to or something like that. So cool. We have the movie where, yes, we do have Silver and Blaze, and we have Cream the Rabbit, and we have Vector the Crocodile, and we have the Charmy the Bee. We have all of these guys in there. But then when we get back to our universe, it is just Amy is the new one, and then we can have just a movie where it's like, okay, and Metal Sonic. Okay, just back to core characters again. Or maybe it's in both and we get out of the other universe in time to get back to our own to stop Shadow or whatever, in our movie proper. And then we can set all that stuff aside because it's a useful tool to have all this multiverse stuff. But I feel like it needs to be wrapped up in a way where it isn't just like, well, why can't blank happen now? Because we could just go into the other timeline and just get a bunch of help. Or just... what if, oh no, Shadow's destroying our universe? Well, there's another universe that's exactly the same. Let's just go there. Oh, and it happens to not have us in it. What a beautiful fit. You know what I mean? Like, when you have this, like, infinite universes shit, then it's just like, well...
That's why I'm like, I kind of don't... I don't want to imply, like, a universe. To me, I'd be like, I think at most, if we're doing some sort of time travel thing, just have it be... Shadow tried to go back in time, but it somehow merged the two timelines, and now you just have a messed up world. And the second movie is just trying them to get the timeline back, because maybe Shadow actually does team up and realize, oh yeah, I messed up, and now I've hurt all these people, and Maria actually isn't even in this timeline either, because like,
oh,
you know what I mean?
Oh, okay, yeah.
You can't change the past. You know what I mean?
He can't control it. He doesn't even get what he wants in his end results. I see.
Yeah, so then it just messes up everything, and then that's where he needs to team up with Sonic to at least bring everything back. I don't know. But like I said, this could be really way too far out.
Yeah, we don't want to get too
excited.
For sure.
Like but at the very end, I think what would be cool is at the very least, no matter what direction, whether it's super silly or super grounded, like the movies have typically been at this point, I think it'd be really cool. What I'd want, I guess, is less of a prediction, but what I want is that Shadow and Sonic don't resolve this in this movie.
I agree.
Let's extend it to another one. Like, that way you don't have to make the decision of like what new characters do we need to bring back. It doesn't need to be
a Fast and the Furious situation where like everyone gets to be at the barbecue a movie or two later. Like they can still have animosity for each other. And wasn't it Izuka said recently, like, Sonic and Shadow are not friends. They understand each other, but that's about it. Like, Shadow is not friends with Sonic. And, like, cool. I like that. Like, because, like, from Shadow's perspective, Sonic ruined his life. You know what I mean?
It's kind of like Venom, right? In Spider-Man, that like they don't.
Okay.
You know,
Yeah.
I know it's cheesy,
Sure.
but like Venom's character is supposed to be, he's kind of an anti-hero at his best, but like he's still the villain of Spider-Man. He at the end of the day. So like that's
God
to me
damn.
like what I think Shadow could be in the movie
Venom.
sense.
Oh my god, we got to
Venom.
get Eminem in here. I'm just a quick tangent. One of my favorite scenes in any movie ever is when you have Eddie Brock in Spider-Man 3 praying to God that he kills Spider-Man for him. Or no,
And God
Peter, it was
answered.
just specifically Peter
God
Parker.
answered.
Right. Oh my god, love it. Yeah, let's get fuck, was it Sam Raimi? Keep wanting to call him Raimi as his first name. Sam Raimi. Get him to direct Sonic. Sorry, Jeff Fowler. Take a break for just a bit, and then you can come
But
back.
no, yeah,
afterwards.
I think, yeah, this film has you could extend it to maybe 2 films and like maybe kill off
I like that because then it's
somebody or
almost
something.
like
But
they're okay. So they clearly
well, I think that
want-
happened though. I'm gonna say no. I think they've been playing it safe
I
the first
agree.
2 movies and with Knuckles. I think that will be a disappointment slightly for me, is if Shadow's just at the barbecue at the end, or they
Yeah.
well Sonic, sorry to fight, but I gotta we'll go our
It
separate
would be
ways
so
now.
much cooler if like even if they do resolve it, but they're still not very like friendly towards each other. Shadow's in a position where he leaves, and then you can have a surprise. He comes back in a movie or two later at a pivotal point. But no, I agree. It's probably not going to be as cool as we want. But here's the thing: Paramount, Sega, the people that directly work on this movie, in their heart of hearts, in their mind of minds, and their wallets of wallets, they would want to do this forever. Not forever,
Right.
forever, but like
But
they don't. None of these people want to stop at 3. They know that there is more, at least on a creative sense, more good stories to tell before you start to hit a dry well.
or at very least you want to do some more TV series on Paramount
There's
Plus if you're
something.
Paramount. So like you want to extend this outside
There will,
of
I
just
think
this
there will
movie.
at least be a Sonic 4. I think this movie would have to bomb, and for them to actually question, do they want to do a fourth one? Beyond that, I don't know.
We've talked about that too in the past with Mufasa versus Sonic on December 20th. So we'll
that's
see.
right.
It
That's
could
right.
bomb. Theoretically, it could. Even if it is a great movie, it could theoretically bomb. Just
We'll
because
see. We'll see.
who's
We'll
competing
see.
against.
I made a very
But-
apparently bold statement on that. I still think it's not that crazy. I think I don't think Mufasa's gonna clean up. But anyway, we'll put that aside. So you're Paramount, I'm Sega, and we're coming together and being like, cool, more, right? Now, you have multiple movies in this thing, and yes, I understand Marvel's just the fucking thing that it's always going to be compared to because no one was really doing it in any fashion like them. But when you have this plan of like just a bunch of movies until we can't anymore, it is very, I think, easy to get into a rut where it is like singular movie instance, singular movie instance, singular movie instance. It's just okay, Monster of the Week kind of situation. Okay, it was Knuckles. Now it's Shadow. Next it's Metal Sonic, potentially. After that it's this. So I think the idea of having a couple instances where it's like, no, the conflict from Sonic 3 bleeds directly into Sonic 4. It was not resolved. Sonic 4 has its own things unique to it as well. I don't necessarily think it's going to be a part 1 and part 2 situation. I think it will be Sonic 4 or Sonic 4, and let's say it does have Metal Sonic in it. But that's only because of stuff at the beginning of that movie is because of the Shadow the Hedgehog stuff not being resolved in 3. I think that would be the smart play to do it. But I think you're right. I do think if you're like, okay, we don't want to confuse anyone, let's wrap this movie up completely and say goodbye to probably the only Sonic character besides Robotnik, that isn't Sonic, obviously, that could be like anchoring the plot for more than one story. I think Shadow the Hedgehog could be the one where it's like where people would be interested in that at the very least, like as a general audience, general Sonic fans at least as well. Like I don't think you could have like another, like I don't think if they were to do Metal Sonic, I don't think I would want a second Metal Sonic movie or God, fucking Silver. I don't want a second Silver or like what were some of these Sonic villains? What was the guy in Forces?
I don't.
What
I do want Black. I low key do want Black Doom though. I think we didn't even talk about that. That could be the ending, like reveal. Like remember Galactus in the end of the original final, not final, Fantastic Four.
The
Remember
Final
the,
Four.
still,
Yeah, you
the
love
Final
saying
Four.
that, don't you?
I know, I do. I'm just basketball coded here. No, like at the end of that movie with the Silver Surfer, they showed the shadow of Galactus, and I remember as a kid being like, "Oh, sick!" I kind of actually know about him more than fucking Thanos. Um,
I know very little about him. All I'll say is that in the Fantastic Four movie that's coming out, Galactus is in it, and he's voiced by a character from Final Fantasy 16 who has the deepest, graveliest voice. And I'm like, yes, you sound like you could be several light years tall. You know what I mean? You sound
just an
like
entity of space, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, we always can do a Black Doom space invasion in the
Yeah, and then
the
there's your
fourth
part
movie.
two.
Yeah.
There's your part two, I guess. Yeah. And then that's how we can take a break from Robotnik, so we don't have to have Jim Carrey in Sonic 4, and then Sonic 5, he's in it for a little bit, kicks the bucket, and Metal Sonic is now his prodigy, right? But you just have a little bit of a hint of like, oh, he could come back as an AI like they did with Tony Stark and those things, where it's like he's in Spider-Man's stupid sunglasses or whatever. I don't remember. Whatever. Anyway, that was big, heady stuff. I want to delve into some more little things, and I know you want to piece together scenes and whatnot, but I think in order to confirm that, we need to still line up what is in this movie or not, right? So, question for you. And at the end of the second movie, he was in it. Agent Stone.
The homie.
Where is he? What is he doing? What's his goal? We see him in this trailer.
Yeah, when we first heard that Jim Carrey was kind of done, we were like, cool. Actually, this gives, I think, opportunity for Agent Stone and his character to maybe be expanded more, because we liked what we've seen from him. He's kind of like on a sports team. He's like one of the later round draft picks, but he's actually doing some great stuff in preseason. You want to see him get some snaps. You want to see him go out there, get his opportunity. So I kind of, but I don't think that's going to happen to that extent, but with Jim Carrey being back. But I do hope Agent Stone does get some more opportunities to actually like do things, because even the second movie he kind of was just chilling at the cafe until the end of the movie.
I think his inclusion in Sonic 2 was more of like, oh, people like this character, let's just bring him back. You know what I mean? I think that was less.
I would like him to actually do something, whether that's he has a mech or something that whatever, something to that extent where he's fighting Shadow maybe by himself, or like, I don't know. I want something where it's him versus somebody, or him. Maybe he fights Tom Wachowski in a fisticuffs.
Jesus.
And, I don't know. Like,
Maybe.
I want something like that where he's kind of separated from Robotnik, or I want him to team up maybe with Knuckles, because we saw that dynamic. They kind of showed in the second movie. They're kind of jealous of one another. So I would love to maybe see, or maybe Agent Stone rather was jealous that he got all the love from Robotnik when he returned. So maybe there's some issues there, and maybe Agent Stone opens up about, he realizes he's in a toxic relationship and he needs to see other people. I would love some like comedic maybe element on that front. I think there's a lot of things you can do with his character, and I just want to see something more from him. But if I had to make a prediction, I think I'll just go the safe bet of, I think he's just hanging out with Robotnik and he's his goon again, and he has his moments, but it's mostly just him hanging out and getting whipped by Robotnik, as opposed to what I really want, which is like, I want more of him, because if Jim Carrey really does want to retire, or maybe doesn't want to do as much, you can actually have Agent Stone be his own kind of, not villain, but you could do different things with him, I think, and I think it'd be cool. And I know the actor Lee Majub, I think is how you say his name. I always feel like I butcher it. I should just look it up at this point, but I think that's right. He's always, half his Twitter feed is him retweeting Agent Stone stuff, and even when there wasn't a Sonic Movie 3 like trailer yet or anything, like, he's been with the fans. I think he loves that role. So I want to give him, like, I don't know, I want to reward him to a certain extent. So that's what I want, I want him to be doing more stuff. But I think in reality, it'll just be kind of more of the same.
I think because they did show him undercover in Gun at the end of Sonic 2. They have to have that mean something. At the very least, it could be like, oh, this leads to Robotnik learning that Gerald was doing things because, oh, I grabbed this thumb drive and there's like a couple files on it. Cool. Like, the very least, it's that maybe he's the one that opens
Unlocks.
Shadow's thing, potentially, not understanding what he's doing, maybe.
But to be fair, they go and see the doctor later on, so it makes me think like, why
Yeah.
would be the point of him doing that? You know what I mean? Outside of like,
Well, maybe
there's
because maybe he doesn't know where Robotnik is, and so maybe we see that after he hasn't yet he's I don't know honestly I don't know.
yeah,
I just want to give him something to do a little bit more than what he's been doing, but at the same point, I listened to what you're saying about like wanting him to like take charge more and have more of a story, but at the same time, like I wonder if I would even like that though. I wonder, like we say we want more of Agent Stone, but like, do we want more of what we've already been getting? Just new, more clever, comedy bits, more writing? Or do we want like him to be doing other things? And I say you can run the risk of having that character be like, all right, now this has run its course. And that's risky. I'm not entirely sure on that. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of it for Agent Stone. From what we've seen in the trailer, it's just more of the same. Unless you have anything more to add for him, I do have another question on another character of equal kind of status here, who's been in all three of these movies, who returned in the second movie because I think people just liked the joke of the character the first time around, and they said, "Yep, we were going to make the play of like us. People liked this joke, but not that joke. Okay, this joke is coming back then." Olive Garden guy, Walters there at Gun. He is in this movie. He is briefing Team Sonic rather, at that Chow Cafe in Tokyo. It seems like I assume that's where that was. About Shadow the Hedgehog, and he's explaining to Sonic Shadow's like origin or whatever. Does this character die? Y or N? What do you think?
I mean, I don't think anyone's gonna die. I don't know. I just feel like they wouldn't kill anyone outside of Maria. That's at the beginning or whatever. I don't think anyone's gonna die. As much as we were talking about like Robotnik, oh, they could kill. That's like
You don't
my
think Sonic the
Hail Mary.
Hedgehog's gonna die and Shadow's gonna replace him? What if that's the big thing? Like from now on, it's the Shadow the Hedgehog movie series.
No, yeah, I don't think anyone's gonna die. I mean, even if they do, they'll like maybe it comes back at the end. It's one of those things where like, oh, actually, I didn't die. I don't know. I just don't think it makes sense for the tone of this to have people die. People can get hurt real bad, but I don't think anyone will die. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't know. I just feel like they wouldn't do it.
Depends on, are they going to up the stakes, up the intensity this time around? Like we get to a point where like where Sonic's like, "What did you do? What I had to," and or Shadow says, "What I had to," and that could mean more violent type of stuff, more cold-hearted types of stuff.
I nuked the world.
Yeah. And in that Sonic Central that we watched semi-recently, and we did an episode on that, so check it out if you haven't already. At the end of that, Jeff Fowler did a little thing where he talks about the movie and how much fun and how much money everyone's making on this movie. And, he talks about, like, from his words, his perspective, the themes of Sonic 1, 2, and now 3. And for 3, it was all about he's in a leadership role for the first time, and he's having to make choices. Will he make the right ones? Will he make the wrong ones? Like, that's for him to figure out. I get the impression there's a point in this trailer. Now, this is led up to reveal Robotnik, but I do not think this is about that. Where Tails is like trying to like stop Sonic, and Tails is saying something like, "We don't know, like this isn't a good idea," and Sonic's like, he's like, "This is what I'm gonna do." What I think that is in reference to is at the end of the movie. I think that is Sonic making a choice, whether that be good or bad, to take Shadow on by himself when they're unprepared and blah, blah, blah. because Sonic is mad because maybe Tom dies. You know what I mean? Maybe by Shadow's hand or result of his actions. And Sonic's really mad, and he's still learning, and so he, does what Shadow does in a sense on taking out his anger. You know what I mean? In this violent manner, and maybe that's what's going on there. Because I can see that's the impression I get, that this movie is trying to amp it up a little bit more. Besides oh no, the town might get stomped on by the robot, but don't worry, everyone's pretty much evacuated already. You know what I mean? What Sonic 2's climax was, and I can see this being more intense. I don't know if it's going to be Shadow whipping out the deagle and being pow, no more this character, no more that character.
Just doming
I don't
everybody.
think it's going to be that crazy or that violent, gruesomely, but I do think a character is going to meet their end by Shadow's actions, and I think
I
Sonic
guess
is
if I had
going
to
get
pick
upset on
one,
that.
realistically, I don't think it's going to happen, but if I had to really pick one, it'd be Tom Wachowski. I think maybe if you really want to set the stakes of Shadow being bad, right? Or really you set up the ante. I guess maybe halfway through the movie or towards the 3/4 mark of the movie, Shadow does, maybe he has to sacrifice someone for some weird reason, or for the time travel stuff to bring back Maria. Maybe he does Tom. I don't know. I really just don't think it makes sense. I feel like Tom Wachowski's too much of a fan favorite. If this was a series that's more, I hate these words, more mature, but I'm saying for adults,
aimed at an older audience,
then yes, I would say anything's possible, right? You could, Game of Thrones somebody, right? But I don't know. For kids, I feel like that'd be too much. I feel like parents could be upset. You don't want to risk that too, because then you're gonna get no money at the box office. Be like, my kid cried at the Sonic 3 thing, and he was upset. So
yeah, I mean business
know.
decision wise of all right, we're never gonna get rid of Sonic the Hedgehog or Tails or Knuckles or
even
Robotnik
Avengers,
if we can help it.
if we keep comparing it to that, because I think it's a fair comparison, because like I said, Jeff Fowler himself has said that that's kind of a loose goal for them. Even the snap scene, right? Everyone, all the characters pass away. We got to remember that, the Marvel movies still, at the end of the day, were not just for kids. They were also marketed for young adults to people our age, right?
Sure.
And at that point, too, they also had such a huge fan base, which was probably a much wider audience, too, that they can be hey, yeah, we can do this. We're not going to upset, people in the way if it was just a kid's movie. We're yep. We killed off Bluey the dog. Sorry, folks. I don't know. I think maybe if you're going to do it, they'd have to do it very, very carefully and in a way that maybe is heroic, or maybe so that kids could understand why. Maybe it's an action that Tom Wachowski does to try to end it. Maybe, he tries to...
Oh, yeah.
Because there is one scene that I saw in the trailer where, Tom Wachowski has his face kind of on a computer. And it does look like he's in the same, either he's in the egg pod that comes out of the London thing, or he's in the crab thing with Robotnik. And it kind of looks like he is in pretty dear trouble there. So maybe he does get taken out there. I don't know. But I don't know. I just feel like they haven't shown, yes, they have shown a death, which was Longclaw, but kids don't know who, it was a made up character that I think is easy to kill off.
Right at the beginning as well. Yeah.
And I think they did a decent job of showing, yep, he's in a different world anyways. If she survived, he can't see her again.
Now we have the
and that's
fun
totally
movie.
different.
Yeah,
it's totally different too. It's also different too when it's a person, a human being that you're showing on screen. I know it's kind of weird to think about that way, but yeah, I don't know. I just think it just doesn't make sense for them, I think, to actually kill off somebody. I mean, I guess you could say these movies have been rated PG, man. I don't know. It's just
true. Yeah.
What are you gonna push a PG-13 rating up on this film?
That's fair.
I don't know.
That's fair. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Next character I want to ask you about, and if you want to interject, go ahead. But I do want to talk about Gerald Robotnik.
Mm-hmm.
What is he doing? Why is he here?
I think he's related to Shadow in some capacity. I think in the games, right, he was one of the reasons
Made him
he
or
made him,
whatever.
right?
Yeah.
He exists. So I think maybe that's at most we can guess so far. Um, I think regular Robotnik, I guess Robotnik Jr., whatever you want to call him, you know, he clearly doesn't know that he's still alive. So maybe that goes to your time travel thing, or maybe he's been in his own test tube sitting somewhere. He froze himself
Oh,
for a certain time because he knew Shadow would break out eventually. I think he has his own motives that are separate from young Robotnik. I just don't know what those motives are. I think it could be I want to control Shadow the Hedgehog. I've been waiting. I created him, but I knew he needed time to get to his peak, and I wasn't going to live, so I froze myself. So now I'm waking up, decades later. You thought I was dead, but I needed to hide myself so I could see my project come to fruition. I could see it something as simple as that. Like, hey, he's
okay.
just crazy like Robotnik, and he just wants to see his creation do its thing.
Okay.
And maybe that's when that ties into the whole Gun thing a little bit more of like Gun knows about this project because
They
they
have
knew,
Gerald or something like
yeah,
that. Yeah,
or
maybe.
they know he's frozen. They think they have it under control, and then they don't realize that this whole time Gerald planned this from the very beginning. That Shadow was going to break out, he'd become too powerful, and then I'll get out of cryo sleep and. I don't know. Just he's a sicko, so maybe he just wants to see the world burn a little bit, and he wants to see what Shadow does.
Maybe.
Maybe. Oh my god! I know we're doing a predictions episode, but now we're doing a wants kind of episode as well. I just thought about this. Maybe Gerald implanted those fake memories. Maybe Maria never existed at all. Oh, and he planted memories in Shadow the Hedgehog to make him evil, so he
That
can.
to me is a bit of a. I don't want to say it's a bit of a stretch, but just think about the ramifications of what that means. Would you feel satisfied having that thing ripped out? Oh, this character never actually had any trauma.
It's kind of like the Blade Runner thing where it's like Shadow
Yeah, but
realizes
those are bad movies. I'm kidding.
you haven't seen them, so
You don't know that.
I don't know. I think it'd be cool. I'm just spitballing random ideas of like what the relation. I think Gerald Robotnik, and Shadow are 100% connected in some way. I guess my prediction is though that, like I said, Gerald Robotnik made Shadow, but knew Shadow was going to become powerful enough to break out on his own, and therefore he froze himself, or he unfreezes himself and unlocks Shadow and tells him, "Yo, they did all this. You should go kill him." Then when he secretly wanted to control the world, I think that makes
Okay.
kind of sense. One of those options. I think either Gerald Robotnik opens the door for Shadow, or vice versa, or he just knows the whole time and he's a mastermind. That explains why, the timeline potentially, like, wouldn't make sense that because our Robotnik isn't necessarily young either. You know
Right.
what I mean? So,
It's
I don't know.
plausible enough, you know what I mean? But like, yeah, I see what you're saying. Like, I was never under the impression that Gerald would even be old enough to be alive in the video game, if that, you know what I mean? Because also just like he's bald. He's already like he's old enough to be bald. Like
I mean, Jim
Jim Carrey's
Carrey's
character.
the main one. I guess we keep saying as if he's not the same actor. He has gray hair, long gray hair in this. So it does imply that he's like at least probably Jim Carrey's real age, which is I think what 60s. So it's like late 50s, 60s, so early 60s.
Well, you could, in theory, add 20 years for his parents and 20 years for their parents. Okay, so now Gerald's 100. Yeah,
I
so
just like I think it'd be kind of
it's a
cool if he froze himself.
stretch,
I don't
but
know, but that's my
yeah,
prediction. Lock it in.
He's obviously in the movie, so there is an explanation somewhere on how this works. Okay, okay, okay. Now, here is a question for you, because I actually agree with you about the Gerald stuff. I don't really have much else to add. Here's a question to you about satisfaction of the movie, which is a very subjective thing. But there are objective metrics we can pull this from. So this film, Shadow the Hedgehog, cool.
Mhm.
He's our pivotal guy. Sonic the Hedgehog,
He's
cool.
him.
He is him, our main character. The movie's even titled after him, sans the three.
Mhm.
Tails and Knuckles are in this movie, and
Right.
we haven't really talked too much about what they could be doing. We're just, I assume, just assuming, we're assuming that, yep, it's just the three of them together are always doing this stuff, and they're always just backup for Sonic. Do you think that they're going to be in the movie? I don't want to say enough, because what defines enough? But do you think they're going to be in the movie a lot, or do you think they're going to be taken? Are we going to see like them making decisions? That isn't also what Sonic is going to want to do, or do you think like they're going to be taking agency enough in this film, or do you think they are going to be like, listen, we don't want to have too many characters bouncing around. This is Sonic versus Shadow for the most part, and now also Jim Carrey, because also it looks like Sonic and Jim are going to be doing things that the two of them, perhaps. You know what I mean? Who knows? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's so hard to tell from this trailer, and I want to give credit to the trailer because the more I've watched it, the more like harder I am to piece the parts together, as opposed to the second movie where like, yeah, okay, we can see when it kind of feels like all this is happening. And I think this movie, right, is going to be the longest one, if I'm not mistaken. I thought we
Hope
saw
so.
that some. I'm not going to think it's going to be 2 hours, but I can see it being an hour 50, maybe. Because I think the other ones were hour 30, around that range. Maybe add an extra 15 minutes to it. I think they'll be together up into that first fight, and then Sonic becomes kind of, selfish again, maybe, and, tries to fight Shadow one-on-one, or has to chase him, or we need Eggman. Maybe Tails sits back with Agent Stone, him and Knuckles as well, maybe, and that's happening, and maybe that's what they cut away to when Sonic or Robotnik are trying to go wherever they need to go. They haven't really showed that. By the way, like that's kind of the big
Yeah.
thing is where are they going? Why do they know where they're going?
Yeah. What are they doing? Yeah.
So, and they're using a ring to get there, so it's at least far away enough that they can't fly to it or whatever.
Fair. Right.
I guess we didn't even talk about that, but regardless, wherever they're going, maybe that's the time when, Knuckles, Tails, maybe Tom, and then Agent Stone are all at the crab base there, and they have their own issues they need to deal with. Maybe they need to be doing something. Maybe it's a race against the clock for some reason, and Eggman and Sonic are trying to do one objective, and then they're trying to do another objective. I'm not going to try to guess what those objectives are. I mean, it could be freaking anything.
Could be a MacGuffin that is made up for the movie to allow.
It could be the emeralds. Maybe they're going to find out.
Yeah, I mean that would be the simplest way to keep it, locked together on Sonic shit. Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess that's fair.
So I think that's what's going to happen. Like, yeah, I've spitballed a lot today, so I'm gonna try to tone it back now.
It's
just
fun.
Say that.
I get it. At
Yeah.
the end of the day, we're trying to really figure it out, but at the end of the day, it's. You said earlier, this is more of like a wish list, a want. Like, yeah, but like I want it to be cool and awesome. So like, yes, I would like to predict this stuff.
Yeah. But no, yeah. I'll just say that I think that's what's gonna happen. I think that'll be halfway through the movie, or maybe after the first act is. Okay, we get the separation, and then they come back together for the third act, and they have a plan maybe to stop Shadow, kind of like a Scooby-Doo thing where, all right, I'm going to do this. All right, you're going to do that. And then when he goes in here, I'm going to drop the net on him, and then we'll take off his mask and see who it is.
They defeat Shadow by dropping him in a net on him, and they catch him in the net. Yes, that'd be awesome.
I'm just thinking of like Scooby-Doo, right? Where it was always like,
we got to get the MacGuffin too, and then you got to do the thing because we've exactly. Formulas. Any movie where it's like we got to go to do a thing. That's what this genre of film is.
But I think I think for sure Sonic's going to have most of the screen time, of course, and I think Robotnik's going to be up there, and then I think it's going to be Shadow. I think those are going to be your three guys, and then I think you're gonna cut away to Tom, Agent Stone. The more I think about, the more we've talked about this, the more it just kind of makes sense to me in terms of how are we gonna be able to show who we want to show, but also give respect to the other characters. I don't know. I just feel like we won't need to have everyone doing a billion things. I think we just won't have the time to do that. And like, I don't think they want to make a 3-hour movie. Like that was the issues with Endgame and Infinity War, is that they're so freaking long because they're trying to, these
Yeah.
guys are going to this, these guys are going here, this guy's going this. And that's why I've only seen that movie twice, because
Yep.
I don't have to
I
make
was
the
saying,
time for it. And I
once
just,
was for this freaking channel. You know what I
yeah.
mean?
And I liked it a lot, but it was also still like,
It was a lot.
oh my
was a lot.
God,
It was
like there's
it's
a lot to talk
dense.
about. Yeah.
Yeah. And actually, I wonder how much that hurts. Of course, in the market when we have with like it's not DVDs and rentals anymore. It's just a streaming service that you subscribe to. But like, perhaps they're like, no, we want a movie that kids would want to watch multiple times. And maybe they do that with Avengers Endgame. I don't know.
Probably not. I don't know. I don't know. I just feel like you need to have set pieces. You need to have characters in certain set pieces. It's easier to remember. It adds more to that memory of it, right? I can't even. If you told me to recount Avengers Endgame right now, I'd be like, dude, I don't fucking even know how it started. Because like, outside of them, they killed Thanos. Then they talk about going in time. You know what I mean? Like, I'm starting to really like. I'd have to.
Yeah, because then they like sit for 5 years on their ass, being like, "Oh, we're
Yeah.
really sad." Whatever. Maybe that's gonna happen in our Sonic 4 movie here. Speaking about Sonic 4, segue. Now, after this trailer came out, I saw some scuttlebutt online. Some I would like to hope perhaps these people talking about this are maybe young, and they haven't just seen the way like
you about
this
to cancel
industry.
somebody?
No, and they haven't seen the way this industry kind of works or the way the creative process works, and maybe they're a bit too Avengers pilled in the sense of like not realizing that there are people who are like think that the entire up until Endgame the whole thing was planned out and blah blah blah. Like no, they fell into a lot of success and they just ran with decisions. People think that too much of films are thought several films ahead of time and not just like, what are we going to make for this movie? Well, here are the threads that were left behind. What could we potentially choose to use? And then
Honestly,
these
how we've had our
fans-
discussion where it's like,
right.
okay, we want to make this movie. Maybe if we want to get hype for a fourth movie, what do we need to do to like get that hype? What's the end goal
Right.
for this movie specifically? And then we
Exactly.
can worry about the
It
next
isn't.
one.
We're not trying to write 3 movies. We're just
We
writing the one
directors-
because we just need one
directors don't
to
even
make
have
us
that time,
money.
dude.
Exactly. Because if the first one fails, then you fucking wasted a lot of time. But anyway, after this trailer came out, there were some people being like, "Oh my god, they're already teasing Sonic 4." And I'm sitting here being like, "What the fuck are you guys talking about?" In the scene where Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles meet up with Robotnik, and they're like, "We need your help." And I just put my hand on my hip because that's what Sonic does in that scene. And Robotnik is like, "Well, if I can't rule the world, might as well save it." And he's like, "I'll do it under one condition." And then there's a cut to Sonic giving Robotnik a quill, and he does the thing where he licks it and goes, "Oh." People are assuming that was the condition, and then that's going to lead into Metal Sonic in Sonic 4. I'm like, take a step back and think about what you're talking about. You're saying that a huge chunk of this movie, because that would be a huge chunk of this movie, is deriving upon the idea of what they want to do for the movie after this one, and not what they want to spend time for this movie's plot. It reminds me of when Avengers Infinity War had come out and people were like, "Oh my god, what's the next one going to be?" There were people just gung-ho about one line Thanos said when he was fighting Tony Stark, where Tony Stark's punching him a bunch with his metal shit, and Thanos is like got up a bloody lip or something. He's like, "Oh, that's for a drop of blood." People are like, and in the background, and I bet Tony Stark has captured that drop of blood, and he's gonna use it. And in the next movie, it is just gonna be like they're gonna use that thing to make the thing, and then blah blah blah. Like, no, it was just a line that was said because it was cool-ish enough when they wrote that, and then had Josh Brolin. Was it Josh Brolin? One of them's the father though. Whatever.
It's
anyway, Brolin at the very least. Like, and I read that the same way for this one. Like, under one condition, it was going to be like, we're going to work together. I'm making my own decisions. You can't veto. It's going to be something like that. And like, yes, in order for Robotnik's tech to work to help them, he's going to need one of Sonic's quills. I don't think that was a case of some of these people are reading into of like, the condition is I get to use your power now to then allow me to make stuff. That's not going to be the case. That was not a tease of Metal Sonic in Sonic 4. That being said, do you disagree with everything I've said there?
I mean, I'll just say that we, or me more particular, this episode did a lot of that spitballing too. So I'm going to say let them have their fun. But I agree that I don't think that line is a secret, like...
No, we are completely fair. Obviously, there is going to be the multiverse stuff going on in the next one, and they're going to see Rouge the Bat, Christian Ritter's going to morph in. Yeah, I understand.
Well, I mean, he's like... Robotnik's just like, on one condition, and it's just like a date, maybe. We don't even... It could be anything, It
could be a joke. It could be leading up to a joke. Yes, I got gag.
Right. But no, like...
It could be just something as like, get me off the FBI's most wanted list. You know what I mean? I have had to hide out here. Because you talked about the crab base. I think his base is the thing that comes out of the river, for the record. That's what I think that is. But he's been hiding somewhere. Let's just say it's there for right now. Because he's wanted for trying to destroy, I don't know, the country. Like, I don't know.
He's a domestic terrorist.
It could be anything. Anything. It could be a joke. It could be something serious. It could be related to the plot of this movie. It could be a one condition. We're making a pit stop, and that's where you get the Gerald Robotnik stuff. It could be anything.
Or you do another Olive Garden joke. We need to do a date at Olive Garden, and then there's a scene where they're eating endless breadsticks for 5 minutes. I don't know. Like you could do that, something like that. But I mean, like, I think the fan theories are cool. I'd rather see them than not. I kind of agree though. I think I wouldn't. There's other lines in this movie I think that have more weight to it potentially, like we've talked about with the shadow line of when we're done there won't be anything left. Like that to me is more we could like guess on versus. On one condition, then they physically show him giving him the quill. If he didn't show him anything, and then that like the trailer ended there, then yeah, I could see more of like, oh, what is that condition? But knowing the pace of these movies and the comedic value of it, and what Jim Carrey's Robotnik is about, yeah, I think it's probably going to be the quill to power up his thing so they could fly or whatever. And that's probably it. But yeah, maybe it opens the door for next movie if they want to take that route, like you said, with Metal Sonic. Then sure. But that doesn't mean that like that was the plan all along, Right. From the very first movie, I think they make each one, especially these movies. Video game movies just typically don't have the success rate, even the better ones, longevity. Even Detective Pikachu's been in what seems like production hell.
That was the biggest hit prior to Sonic movie.
Right, you know what I mean? So
they didn't anticipate making a second one, and like they don't even know if
people
they are.
People gotta remember the Avengers is an anomaly rather than an active.
And they fell on a lot of rakes to get this perceived status of like, chalkboard formulating.
It isn't the traditional way of things. There's big franchises like Planet of the Apes, which I love, but they made the first movie. They said like, hey, if this one does well, yes, we would like to do 2 more movies. We have loose ideas.
They absolutely assumed that several decades later, Tim Burton would try to make one.
Right. But I'm saying like even the new trilogy, right, or like the Alien franchise, where it's like no, they made a story that could fit within the scope of the other ones. They don't be like, okay, in 10 years, oh yeah, we could bring that story. Like maybe there was a script laying around, but at the end of the day, they rewrite these scripts a bunch.
That's kind of like what
people gotta remember how movies are made, and remember that most times, even the people who make some of these movies don't return for sequels. It's very rare that you get. I used Planet of the Apes as an example I shouldn't have, because the writers did the last 4 movies. The writers, not the directors, but the writers themselves have done the last 4 movies. But those were also making a lot of money, more so than Sonic the Hedgehog was, and they were passionate enough to keep it going. But even then, they weren't writing 5 movies in the future. They were like, I have some loose themes or ideas I want to tackle, but they're not, I'm going to have this line set up.
To do this a second time, And then
Yeah.
this is maybe what I would think on doing.
Yeah.
We have an
Yeah.
episode that we're gonna have at some point in the nearish future. We're gonna talk about like making movies as people that don't make movies, but and all this stuff because I feel like there's something to be said about like this century so far in relation to how movies are made and to who. But Sonic the Hedgehog 3 is the soup du jour. It
Yeah.
is the movie of today. Devin,
Do we? I was gonna say, do we want to?
I was gonna ask you. I was gonna ask you to talk now. Tell me something.
Yeah. No, I think
what do
I
you
want
wanna
to
do?
end this with just being like, okay, we talked about the pieces, some of our ideas for what they might do for some of these characters and their stories and their motives, all those things, right? We kind of been building up to this now, and we've, this is based off what we can visually see in the trailer. There's basically, to me, there's two really big settings. There's Japan, like Tokyo specifically, and then there's London. There's three. Green Hills is shown in the beginning. I think or at least in the beginning of the trailer. I think that'll probably be in the beginning, but we can talk about that. I think those are the three big setting pieces that we know of. And then of course, there's like the interior of what looks like could either be that crab / UFO flying saucer Eggman thing, but also could be the lab. There's also scenes that it looked like could be in the lab or that like compound in the middle of nowhere where Shadow's from. They also show that, but it's kind of hard to tell in some of these scenes the interior because I think Robotnik, made some of that stuff. So it's kind of hard to tell what is what. I think that's
And Gerald could have also made a lab.
Yeah, sorry,
it's hard
Gerald.
to tell. Well,
Yeah.
and the design language on Robotnik's stuff has been mostly exterior, right?
Yeah.
Like we can tell his mechs from gun stuff, but like what you're saying, the inside of the gun base could also have, like, it's hard to tell who made what. Yeah.
Yeah, so we could kind of maybe see like where those things are, but at the end of the day, there's three big things. It's Japan, London, and Green Hills. That's what we know for so far, and then maybe inside one of the spaceships or something at some point. But if those are the four things we know, what do we think is the Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, of this movie? I think we kind of talked about it a bit earlier with when you asked about the characters, like how much screen time and where they are. So I guess maybe I can at least say there, I mentioned it kind of that back there, where I feel like that's the start of the second act, where Eggman and Sonic go one direction, and then the other group stays in the little whatever it is, crab thing, whatever, home base basically.
Sure. Yeah.
And I think that's in London, I'm gonna guess, or maybe they go in the sky to
I feel like
escape
once,
from London.
just
But
a stupid little logic thing here. Once you reveal that you've been hiding in the London River, I don't think you just stay there. I think
well, I
you
think they
probably
leave. I think they leave, but
just for the sake of like the
I don't know if
government being
that's
like, what the fuck?
I don't know if that's the start of the first act or not. I don't know. What are your thoughts? I mean, I think it definitely starts in Green Hills, of course, to set the mood. But then maybe Sonic gets a call from the general there, the gun. We have an issue. Or I guess they should have started. I think it'll open with Shadow escaping wherever that compound is, and then we never see that compound again for the rest of the movie. It's whatever at that point.
Agreed.
Unless Gerald Robotnik is there as well, like I said, in cryo sleep or whatever. But I can see him being somewhere else for the sake of it's a secret,
Okay.
So maybe it opens at that. Then we open to Green Hills.
Right, because we want that juxtaposition of Shadow's current state and then how happy Sonic's life is so far. Like, Sonic's story, you could have ended after Sonic 2 and it's happily ever after. You know what I mean? So show us how it's not happily ever after for everyone.
They're doing a race or whatever they show in the trailer or whatever in the forest. They're doing that, whatever. Then
By the
Sonic
way,
gets
for that
a call.
race, in that scene, sorry to cut you off, but they showed Knuckles gliding off of Big Ben. I actually don't think that's a part of this race. I think that was part of the London scene because I don't know.
Oh yeah.
It seems like kind of obvious, like we were there. Excuse me, still.
But yeah. So I think it starts in Green Hills, and then Sonic gets a call for. I'm gonna guess this is where I don't know, because if Eggman's thing is in London, I feel like that's later in the film, but it kind of feels like that's like their first gig and they are successful at it. So maybe they find Eggman
I
early.
get the impression that no, that that is second act, end of first
Okay.
act into second act.
So maybe we're wrong. I'm wrong in that. But let's say I think for just to lock it in for a prediction here, they get a call for Tokyo, and he's like, "You got to get here. You know, something's up." Maybe there's no
I'll
like.
tell you in person because
I'll tell you.
clearly he is
Yeah.
briefing them in person.
Yeah. And while they're briefing in person, they actually get attacked, and then
Yeah, because
like,
like
hey,
a
we need
missile
to get to
goes
the
into that place.
we need to get in the chopper. That's why I don't know how they get in the chopper, but maybe there's like a another part to it, and then they meet up with him. You know, maybe they jump out of the plane.
Yeah, but like they
Or
talk
out of the helicopter.
about like I don't think they would have seen Shadow before he got briefed on what Shadow is because Sonic's first reaction is we don't want to fight you. You know what I mean? Because he's probably has been told enough about this guy to know like, okay, wait,
Yeah.
we could probably talk to him. It sounds like his story is sad. You know what I mean? I'm with you. I think yes, opens with the Shadow breakout, then Green Hills, and then yes, we get the call. Cool. We meet in Tokyo, and then because it looks like it gets attacked there. There is probably maybe a 5 minutes of um, resolution on that. Okay, he's in the hospital. He's
maybe it's already being
whatever.
attacked, and then he finds him like, and it's a quick brief, like not even a brief. It's more like, "Oh, I'm glad you made it. Like this is what's happening. He came quicker than I thought." And who's he? It's Shadow the Hedgehog. Oh. And he gives him a quick rundown, and it's like, okay, well, we need to get out of here because, this is turning into a war zone. It could be something simple like that. Maybe it's not as complicated as...
I think that's the last we see of Walter's Olive Garden guy. I think he is in a hospital
Maybe he
somewhere.
does die. Yeah,
I mean,
he gets hurt.
that's why I asked, because I think it looks like he could obviously die there.
I
think he's going to be in a hospital away from the movie for a while.
And then towards the end of the movie, like The Rock does in Fast 7...
or no, he flexes.
He flexes the cast off.
Right?
And goes and helps.
God. And then he picks up a minigun. That's meant to be put on that's a cannon you put on a helicopter, and he's holding it. And he shoots down a helicopter. Awesome. He shoots the grenades in a bag.
Maybe he shoots down the helicopter, Sonic.
Yeah. So we get like a 5-minute scene that's not shown. That is, resolution on that, recuperation. All right, we can still do this. He's gonna be fine because why would they be a little bit too? Why would they joke around being like, all right, we gotta find a weirdo alien? I don't feel like you say that if a guy died. You know what I mean? So okay, he's in a hospital. He's gonna be fine. We still got this. You know what I mean? We're a team. I'm happy with my buds. It is weird. It shows Tails flying the helicopter, but clearly there was a co-pilot because then when they jump off, there's another guy. Unless these are two different scenes, you know what I mean? I don't know about that.
It might just be a little comedic thing that, whatever. It just, yeah.
And Tails is a pilot, so I'm glad that we're seeing him. Because you know what I want to see? I want to see him build the tornado. I want to see him build his thing. You know what I mean? Build your flying thingy. And have Sonic stand... Because, yeah, there was the biplane... Or wait, did Tails make that in Sonic 2?
I think he just gets it. I don't kind of just gets it. It was in Hawaii. He's like, oh, because remember it was flying during the wedding scene. Oh, I think he steals it straight up.
Fair enough.
He's a crook.
It was insured. They're gonna get their money back for that thing. You know what I mean? Like the government showed up and they blew stuff up, so obviously they're gonna get their money back. It's a private business. Anyway. Then we very briefly fight Shadow. Oh, no, he's out of our league. It's like we don't know what to do. Guess we gotta find Robotnik. Maybe he can help us. And then I think yes, you're right. I then think we split up. MacGuffin chase for for Chaos Emeralds.
Well, they find Eggman in London. I think that we're like that scene where Big Ben gets blown up or whatever. I think Eggman's fighting, I think they find Eggman, and then Eggman thinks that they're trying to
tussle.
They're trying to wreck his shit, and so he's immediately on the defensive, and then they battle it out until Sonic's like, "No, I need your help," and that's where you have the night scene of them with the crab. I think they get there in the morning, they fight out in the morning, and then in the evening they.
But now, just comedically, I'm thinking about when Agent Stone's like, "Doctor, we have guests," and Robotnik is like surprised and shameful
Yeah,
of
I
his
guess.
state.
But there's definitely
So
Big Ben explodes at some point, and why would that be the case? You know, like otherwise, I don't know. It's just
yeah, because if our only
there's
villain
something
is
happened.
just Shadow, a singular guy, he's not a tech guy, he's not having minions. We have two people split up. We got to have action scenes. So who's fighting what?
Or this goes back to my theory of they split up. So maybe they find Eggman in the London River. They're like, oh, cool, we're teaming up. And meanwhile, Gunn maybe doesn't get the memo, or somebody is coming after them while Eggman and Sonic are elsewhere, and there's some missiles flying around, and they're in like some sort of air battle
Yeah,
near
there could be
London
rogue gun agents in this movie.
or something.
Yeah, that's true.
There's some plot reason, right? And I think that's maybe where things are getting blown up, and it's when Sonic and Eggman aren't there. So maybe that's where we get the team up of Agent Stone, Knuckles, Tails, and Tom Wachowski in the airbase thing, and they're trying to defend the airbase. You know what I mean? Maybe they are running out of time or something, and that's why. So Knuckles is like, I gotta fight him out there, you know, and then maybe that's it.
Yeah, I mean,
Now the more I think about it, the more it kind of makes sense. More of like why there would be violence happening.
action for the sake of action.
Yeah.
I mean, who cares? Yeah, yes. I can see what you're saying. I can see what you're saying. So they split up, but then at some point we also have I almost said our Jim Carrey Robotnik, as if the other one isn't also Jim Carrey. At some point
Gerald.
he has to be by himself enough to meet Gerald, right?
I think they wherever they're going, it winds up them maybe going to where Gerald's hideout is, and maybe that's a different float, another saucer thing. I don't know. I still don't know if the crab and the saucer are the same thing. Whatever. Maybe that's where they find. That's where Sonic and Eggman are trying to go. They're trying to find Gerald because he'll know how to stop Shadow. Perhaps. Maybe there isn't this deep theory that, you know, he unlocked Shadow, but I still like that idea. That could still be a thing where they go to get Gerald's thing and they realize Gerald's behind it the whole time. So then you have the Robotnik's fight. Then you have Sonic maybe fight Metal. Maybe Metal Sonic is just a quick throwaway dude for Gerald that Gerald has in his repertoire to fight Sonic. And then while that's happening, Robotnik's
That would
fighting
feel
Gerald
lame
Robotnik.
and waste of. But I get it. I don't know.
I feel like
boils
that's an
down to
opportunity
how
to do
many
it.
of these movies they want to make and what are their priorities. Because what if they want to make just a bunch more of it's just Sonic versus Robotnik type of movies, and like they don't really care about
It could
the
be
games
it could
at
be
this
a
point.
prototype, you know, and then you could
Sure.
I don't know,
Yeah.
whatever. But maybe there's a fear, like you said, like there, you know, this could be the last movie potentially. Even if it does well, there could have been like, yeah, you know what, we've
And
for
then we
now.
never did get Metal Sonic because okay, that's fair.
So
That's
like
fair.
let's throw him in here for a quick battle, and Sonic destroys him or whatever.
That's fair.
And then Robotnik maybe defeats Gerald Robotnik, however that looks, and they're able to be like, okay, we got information of how to stop Shadow. And then the third act is maybe somewhere they haven't shown yet. I could see it being in space with the space colony arc of some sort. Either that or it's somewhere else we don't know yet that they didn't show, and I'm glad if that's the case they didn't show it. And that's where you get our final act, and they have whatever weakness Shadow has to stop him, and then they fight, and then that's the movie. That's probably the safe bet of how it goes. If we're doing what we talked about earlier, this is the start of a part one almost, where it bleeds into the other one. They get to this third act. Maybe Gerald Robotnik says you're too late, and Gerald doesn't help him at all. And then Shadow's attacking another place, and they're like, oh, what we got, and let's try to fight him. And then they lose again, and then the reality shift or whatever you want to do with that. Then that's your way of not closing it out, and then you can continue the story in a potential fourth movie. I don't know, but what I think is it's more the first thing I said, where I think they figure out a way to stop him. Gerald Robotnik reveals that to him, whether that's by force or he is actually trying to stop Shadow as well. Whatever character arc you want to do with him, I like the first idea of him being kind of in on it, and they have to kind of beat him up to get that information. I like the idea of Robotnik versus Robotnik too.
But what if it's just they're punching? They're not even using. They're tech. They're just punching.
That'd be kind of funny. Just them throwing each other through like glass or
Yeah, like
whatever. Like
Vin Diesel and Cena in
just throwing themselves through walls
S9.
and shit.
Yeah.
But no, I think that's probably the safe bet. If we're doing like a safe lock-in bet right now, that's where I would go. Is they figure out a way through Gerald, and then they go back to whoever Shadow is, and they save the day, and then end of movie.
Fair enough.
And I
Yeah,
think
do
that's a
think the
good
third act is gonna
hour
be a lot of
35.
fighting Shadow. We're gonna get some loss. We're gonna get some. We got to get back in the.
There'll be some
saddle.
dialogue about,
Yeah.
oh, Shadow, like, I know what it's like to lose someone. You have to, you have to let it go. These people aren't to blame. There might be some of that while they're fighting.
Right.
And then that's it. I don't know. I hope it's not that. I hope it is a little bit more complicated, like we talked about. That'd be kind of cool. But I can also see them playing it safe because that's how they've done it up until this point, and it's been successful enough. So
My only hope is that Shadow's in it a lot, doing cool stuff, and then that sells the movie ticket to me. You know what I mean? That makes it feel satisfying to me. And everything else is a little whipped cream and a cherry on top. Maybe a sprinkle here or there. I don't really like sprinkles. Okay. Well, I think we kind of did the thing. I think that's pretty much every. I mean, besides this, we're spitballing more and we're making wish lists, and that's fun to do. But I feel like we kind of talked about our actual predictions of this movie,
both realistic
enough.
and wishes. So
Because I do think it is very possible that this is setting up a fourth movie in how we've said it, and in the sense of just like it's not resolved, and now we've bled into Sonic 4. I don't think it's going to be siloed movies forever. I mean, if they do, I think that's a bit of a mistake. That's how you get into.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's my safe bet.
direct-to-streaming
That's my
movies,
safe bet is that it ends with them defeating Shadow, and then everyone's cool, and then there's hey, I'm Charmy the Bee.
That is
at the
your
end.
teaser for Sonic 4. Then fuck, we end it now. End it now. You scrape the bottom of the barrel, and you've scraped the bottom of this episode.
That's a
Thank
big
you all
worm.
for watching. Now, Devin,
Yeah.
you and I know very well that we're a podcast that people listen to on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, Audible, and the like. I was on Audible the other day, and I saw our podcast on there. I was like, oh,
Wow.
okay. I forgot. I say this, but I've also forgot that, yes, we are there. But we're on YouTube primarily, so please check us out there. You get to watch our faces. You get to watch me constantly mute the mic and blow my nose as I'm just getting over a cold. And you get to like, subscribe, and comment below what you think is going to happen in Sonic Movie 3.
I really want to know. I want to see some
Sonic Movie 3.
I want maybe break it up by what you think really will happen. Then what is your kind of wish list, like pipe
Be
dream?
realistic, and then go what you want. You know what I mean? Yeah. Let us know in those comments below. And then we're also on various social media platforms at Sonic Movie Show, because until this movie comes out, that's what we're all about, baby. Remember, this is the alternate universe where we watch Sonic 1 every week. We watched Sonic Movie 2 once, but we're just about that first movie forever. Yeah. So hit us up, let us know, watch us out, click us, and like. Metrics.
Click us, like it's.
Anyway, we always like to end this podcast with one very simple phrase. I want Rouge the Bat to be Kristen Ritter morphed into a weird hybrid of human bat creature. Out.
Rouge.